Hello, my name is Margaret Adelle. A little while ago on my own personal channel, I did this long list of recommendations for books involving neurodivergent characters or disabled characters in genre fiction like sci-fi or fantasy or those kinds of things. Now, the original video is nearly an hour long, so we're going to do a smaller version of that for Literary Gladiators. So here are my top 5 books involving either disabled or neurodivergent characters living their best life with like aliens and stuff. Up first is Wildfire Griffin by Zoe Chant. This is the first in a indie shifter romance series all about this group of hotshot firefighters, the firefighters that go in to fight wildfires, finding their true mates. And in this one, the woman that our Griffin shifter falls in love with is autistic. It plays into her character a little bit, but is not her defining characteristic. She is in fact an incredibly badass and capable firefighter in her own right. And there are some moments later on in the series where she really gets to shine, and I love it. Of course, there is an overarching plot connecting the entire romance series beyond just all of these people falling in love, and it has nice, gigantic, supernatural stakes that you can really get into and watch grow over the course of the series, and I would highly recommend it. Up next is Where Shadows Lie by Allegra Pescator. This is a high fantasy all about your classic tale of a tyrant king that needs to be overthrown by the young up-and-coming prince. Only the prince dies in the first scene, and the synopsis reads, "The chosen one is dead. Instead, his younger sister, the innocent princess who has suffered from a disability since childhood, becomes the one that must dethrone her father. She is also bisexual, and there's some fun WLW romances. It's never explicitly stated what her disability is. The descriptions of the illness kind of make it sound like a polio-related thing, but I can't be exactly sure. You know it's high fantasy, but still we got the star-crossed romance and fate and the evil tyrant king and all of that high fantasy goodness. Only the protagonist is a lovely, disabled disaster bisexual, and I love it. Up next is Survival Kit by A.H. Haga. What if you were a wheelchair user in a zombie apocalypse? Kit has a chronic illness that often leaves her in need of a mobility device. However, this is an apocalypse and a lot of things are going wrong. And on top of that, she has this illness, and so she and her wife, yes, we're dealing with some more awesome sapphic characters, must traverse across Norway to find this sanctuary that they have heard about, that very classic zombie apocalypse story. And there's kind of this overhanging fear on top of everything else. You know, you got your zombies, your raiders, that she might not survive it regardless because of her illness. And it's this really bittersweet idea. And the world building is fantastic. It's really nice to see a zombie apocalypse in a non-American setting. On top of that, the mechanics of the zombies are really cool. And I just love Kit all around. I would highly suggest this one. Up next is Once Stolen by D.N. Bryn. This is all about a creature I like to call a swamp naga set in this flintlock fantasy swamp setting called Cacao, and he is both deaf and autistic. The text does not use the word, but I have spoken to the author, and that's what he is. And it's all about him desperately trying to use these little magical rocks to soothe himself and all the sensory overload he has. But in his desperation, he is willing to do a lot of things, including accidentally shackling himself to this weird person he's never met before. And wouldn't you know it, feelings begin to bloom. I loved this one so much. A very vivid setting and a lot of deafness representation. This world has a lot of people who are deaf, and so signing is just kind of the norm. And the descriptions of Cacao's sensory overloads are very, very vivid and kind of sad, but also give you a lot of context for the not great things he's willing to do to get rid of those sensory struggles. And in all, just so nice. And lastly, we have Failure to Communicate by Kaya Sonderby. This is about a young autistic woman named Xandri who is tasked in this space opera with being a xenoliaisons. Essentially, when a new species is discovered, she is the one to figure out how to best make first contact to keep things peaceful. Well, she is pulled into a very nasty political argument on this other planet wherein these people are basically trying to give the schematics for their fancy new weapon to the space orcs. And yes, the space orcs are evil here. I'm a little bit bummed by that, but it's fine. Regardless, the problem with this is that while these are technically not humans, they act so much like humans that it's going to give her problems, because the number one species she's always had the most struggles connecting with is her own. Very nice big stakes. I really appreciated it. The ending was nice and big as well. I have actually already started the sequel on this one, and I would, again, like all of these, highly suggest it. And that was the mini list. Like I said, if you would prefer a longer version, there's that hour video on my channel. But regardless, I really hope you check some of these books out and add a little bit more diversity onto your shelves. And with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.